this is Pelin. Today, me and my group mates will be presenting about intercultural communication and e-politeness. I will talk about what politeness is. I will try to give the definition of it, and then we will continue with Ziad, who will be talking about e-politeness in academic setting, and he will give some examples of e-politeness in emails. And then finally, Ren will be talking about e-politeness strategies. So let's start with politeness. What is politeness? Well, politeness is one of the concepts that have received huge amount of attention in the field of pragmatics and intercultural communication. But what is it? Well, as the concept of politeness may change from culture to another, the term is quite elusive. And although it has been explained by many theorists, there is no set definition for it. But probably the most accepted one, the Browns and Levinson theory, which is based on Goffman's face theory. However, although this is the most accepted one, it doesn't mean that it applies to each culture. There are also some critics about it, which Ren will be talking about it. So Brown and Levinson believe that face is the most crucial motivation for politeness. Well, we all know that politeness is important to maintain social interaction, but the question is, how polite should we be, or how we can decide to what extent we should be polite. Have a look at this example. Dear waiter, tell your respected father to kindly oblige me with a dish of rice and vegetables. Does it sound polite, sarcastic, or simply inappropriate? Well, the answer can be all, because politeness is not static but dynamic, and it is not predetermined, but it is constructed by participants through a discourse and interaction. So this leads me to discover the context and culture. So if we go back to this example again, the context is an open-air Thai restaurant. So this sentence may sound inappropriate, even sarcastic. However, the speaker of this sound is coming from Washington, D.C., and he served there for a long time. So apparently he couldn't adapt himself to the new context and culture. Well, so far we have seen the notion of politeness is crucial in any communication, but especially in intercultural communication. Culture must be taken into consideration while communicating with others. Norms of politeness may vary not only depending on context, but also to culture. There are two main cultural issues related to politeness. First of all, culture constitutes what interpersonal politeness in a particular society. What I mean with this, what can be regarded as normal in a society might be quite offensive in another. And the second cultural issue of politeness relates to whether the interacts share the same culture or from different cultures. It means, the first one means intracultural, and the second one means intercultural. And it is obvious that intercultural communication requires more effort, especially computer-mediated communication, as a social etiquette from face-to-face interaction that gives us clues about politeness can be extended to computer-mediated communication to a certain degree, especially depending on the type of the computer-mediated communication. If the computer-mediated communication is through video, it applies better than text-based communication. However, it doesn't mean that text-based communication doesn't have any rules. They do have. For example, typing in uppercases mean yelling, hence it is impolite. So Zia will be giving more examples about how to be polite in academic context.
Thank you, Pillin. I'll be speaking about the history of e-politeness in Western context first. A few years ago, it would have been improper to reply to a job announcement via email with your resume as an attachment. However, right now, such practices are customary, such is the nature of culture. This could be similar to emails in academic context. For example, before it was more appropriate to speak to your professor before or after classes or during his office hours. Now you could just send him an email and he could provide clarification, feedback, or you could just send him an email for just requesting. So complaints from faculty concerning student emails range from a variety of things. It could be the frequency of student emails. It could be the content of said emails. It could be the linguistic form of the emails, such as grammar errors or spelling errors, or unreasonable requests, such as sending 5 files of drafts and saying, please, I need feedback on all, or providing or saying that you want information that's already provided in the syllabus. So researchers have attributed this inappropriate use of emails from students due to erased boundaries that kept students at a distance. It could be from instant messaging such as Facebook, MSN, and of course there's no social context cues in computer-mediated communication, so it masks the status difference. But what I believe is the most important problem is that non-native speakers usually lack the email etiquette in Western context, so they're very unfamiliar with the target culture's norms and values. So here's a study done by Chin in 2006. The purpose of the study, as you can see, was to address qualitatively how L2 learners develop their pragmatic competence in providing culturally acceptable emails. So the participant was a Taiwanese graduate student. It was a longitudinal case study done for more than 2 years. The data collection was 266 emails, 3 in-depth interviews before and during and after the data collection process. The data analysis was the critical discourse analysis approach. So how the participant constructed his messages. As you can see here, the participant, he had a request, he only put it at the end. This indirect approach is very common in an Asian context. However, in a Western context, they usually put the most important thing, what he wants, at the beginning. So Westerners, they usually have a direct approach. So there's a difference. Over here, there's a intercultural communication. So another example would be when the participant first had his appointed when he knew his advisor. As you can see, he says, because of you're my academic advisor, I need you to help me. So it lacks status appropriate politeness. So as you can see, she thought that her advisor had an obligation to help her, since she was influenced by the Asian view of obligations between students and teachers. So in the Asian context, it's comparable to a parent and child relationship. In Western context, it's much more different. Professors are not usually morally obliged to help their students. So another example would be, as you can see here, she wanted a recommendation, and she says, I know I'm not an outstanding student. Such modesty is very common in an Asian context, but it's frowned upon in a Western context. So the professor, he denied her request for recommendation. This move in a Western context is usually viewed as an ineffective strategy. So, but as she progressed, after probably a year and a half, her pragmatic awareness started developing. When she got accepted for the PhD, and she had an academic advisor, she didn't repeat her mistake. Rather than using a student-centered approach, she started using a institutionally orientated one. So she said that the institute said that you will help me, instead of saying that you have to, that I and you, we have to meet. And thank you for listening. Next will be Ren.